But you can see here that, you know, Lot lost his sons-in-laws that were destroyed because they lived in that environment so long that he just kind of didn't see no problem. They didn't see no problem with it, and then all of a sudden he comes and says there's something wrong with it. We need to leave. They didn't believe that. And it says here that God destroyed all the cities around about Sodom and Gomorrah, the plain, the inhabitants, and everything grew above ground. But then he loses his wife. She looks back and becomes a pillar of salt. So now his wife's dead. His 3 son-in-laws are dead. By the way, his wealth is gone. His cattle, that's gone. It's gone. He ends up here. He won't even go to Zoar. He was feared to go there, so he ends up dwelling in a cave with his daughters. And then here they get him drunk because they never knew a man, because they never knew their sons-in-laws. I mean, or their husbands, his son-in-laws. They never knew them. I'm telling you, he never knew them. His daughters never knew them at the time. So they're saying, our father's old and he's about to die, and we don't. And now they come up with this plan like we need to keep seed going. So I know, let's get our father drunk and let's have sex with him, and that's basically what happened here. Let's get him drunk and let's lie with him, have sex with him, and we'll have our children that way. All we gotta do is get him drunk and he'll do it. You know, he won't know. He'll be drunk. You know, we can't do it now. You know, we can't do it with him sober. You know, he'd never do it. Did you just imagine? You never see us. It doesn't give how he reacted when he found out, because you know eventually he would have seen them. They were both pregnant and said, "Who's the daddy?" And then could you imagine him finding out that he was the dad? You're the daddy, father. You're the one these are your children. And then could you imagine maybe even his wife finding out? She was there. If she had been there, she wasn't there, and it's probably kind of almost like a mercy of God that she didn't have to see that. Because I could imagine what she would have said in all this. And then, by the way, again, look at the 2 children, who they were the fathers of, the Moabites and the Ammonites, which, by the way, were strong, which were were really big thorns in the Jews' sides, and still are, by the way. If you read throughout history, throughout the Bible, you'll see where the Ammonites and the Moabites afflicted and vexed the Jews throughout their history with wars and other things. Just constantly was a thorn in their side. And by the way, they still are, because the Moabite and Ammonite descendants are still around. Now the nation itself don't exist anymore, but their descendants do. They still exist. All because of greed. All this come out of greed. Come out of being an avarice, unsatisfied, desiring, covetous of wealth, coveting wealth. That's what this come out of. All that come out of. What a terrible story. And it even says that Lot was a just man, and according to Simon Peter, he was a just man. But what happened here? He was vexed by this environment he lived in vexed him. That's why he was saying all this stuff. That's why he would call them brethren and then say, "I'll offer my 2 daughters." He got so vexed and messed up by it that it was almost like there was nothing wrong with it anymore. He lived in it so long that it had become all right to him. It was just not really that big a deal anymore. It messed him up. All because of greed. Next one is Achan. Achan was a Jew, and this is during the conquest of Canaan in the book of Joshua. If you read in the book of, I believe it's in Deuteronomy, it talks about, Jesus gives a direction where not to take anything from an enemy, or I can't remember the verses, but it talks about not to covet and take anything from another nation, lest the anger comes on you, lest my anger will come on you, or something. It's something like that. I can't remember exactly. I can't quote it exactly. But read this. Joshua 7, 19-25. And Joshua said unto Achan, by the way, what happened before this? The reason he's asking him this is before in the same chapter, or I believe it's the same chapter, but it's just a little before, the children of Israel went to fight against the city of Ai, and the people of Ai defeat the children of Israel in the battle. And I think about 7,000 Jews are killed. And Joshua knew that God said, I'm going to fight with you. I'll fight for you, and I will defeat these nations for you. They will not win. You will lose. You will win. And Joshua prays on him and says, "What's going on, Lord? Why do we lose? Haven't found favor in your sight anymore? Or what's going on? Why do we lose this battle?" And the Lord says, "I'm angry with y'all. He basically says, my anger is waxing hot into y'all because somebody is transgressing against the Lord. You've transgressed against me. That's why this has happened. And it was because of Achan and his covetousness. And he eventually gives him a lead and says, this is where I want you to go. This is where the problem is. And he looks and he searches, and eventually he comes and narrows it down to Achan. And then this is where it picks up. Joshua 7, 19-25. And Joshua said unto Achan, my son, give, I pray thee, glory to the Lord of Israel, and make confession unto him, and tell me now what thou hast done. Hide it not from me. And Achan answered Joshua and said, indeed, I have sinned against the Lord God of Israel, and thus have I done. When I saw among the spoils a goodly Babylonish garment, and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight, then I coveted them and took them. And behold, they are hid in the earth, in the midst of the tent, and the silver under it. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran unto the tent. And behold, it was hid in his tent, and the silver under it. And they took them out of the midst of the tent, and brought them unto Joshua, and unto the children of Israel, and laid them out before the Lord. And Joshua and all Israel with him took Achan, the son of Zerah, and the silver, and the garment, and the wedge of gold, and his sons, and his daughters, and his oxen, and his asses, and his sheep, and his tent, and all that he had. And they brought them unto the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, why hast thou troubled us? The Lord shall trouble thee this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones, and burned them with fire, and after they had stoned them with stones. You talk about rough. They stoned Achan and his family because of that. And they destroyed all the stuff he took. They took everything. They destroyed it all because of this. And it says after this, God's anger was I don't know exactly the words, but it says basically God's anger his anger went down. He lost his anger. The anger went down. It was cooled or whatever. I can't think of a word, but it was satisfied. The sin was gone, had been dealt with, and it was over. Here's one, Judas Iscariot. Matthew 26, 14-16. Then one of the 12 called Judas Iscariot went unto the chief priests and said unto them, what will ye give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they coveted with him for 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he sought opportunity to betray him. Matthew 27, 3-5. This is after Jesus had been delivered. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, and departed, and went and hanged himself. You talk about bad. Judas decides to betray the Lord, and thinks about, I'm going to betray the Lord and get 30 pieces of silver, avarice. He was greedy, wanted to try to get something out of it. The greed showed, there was greed involved in it too. And he said, what will you give me for him? I'll give you 30 pieces of silver. Okay, I'll help you betray him. I'll deliver him to you. After he'd been delivered, though, he's repents himself and is sorry for it. But it's too late now. He's only sorry because he got caught. He was never saved to start with. Judas is not saved. He never was. He went to hell when he died. But he was upset about it, and he went back and said that he had sinned and betrayed the innocent blood. And the chief priests really don't care. They didn't care. They never care. They say, what is that? What does that do? Well, we care that you've done that. And he gave him the silver. He cast the silver to him and went and hanged himself. And you read it later on. If you read there's a prophecy about the pieces of silver were taken and were used because it was blood money. They wouldn't put it into the offering, so they took the money and bought a potter's field with it and used it to bury strangers in, which was a fulfillment of prophecy, and called the place a field of blood. That was a I can't remember the verse, but it was a fulfillment of prophecy. I will finish this up in part 4, I believe.